Affairs Committee within the Senate, and we would draft a list of student interests, whatever that interests them within the state, within their local communities. We draft that up, and then we would send that and testify against the legislature. Next year specifically, it's a special session. It would be a great time to start this kind of initiative. So this way we can actually, show the state legislator that students argue, they care about issues that are going on, not just on campus, but within their communities.
Mr. Styler?
In terms of developing a relationship with legislators, I have already met with Chancellor Clich this year to discuss different programming and event efforts that we can have toward the legislature in Carson City, how we can better get students down into Carson City to meet with legislators. I helped plan the budget rally in Carson City last year, and also helped in the planning process for an educated response. So I've already been working on that development with the legislature, and part of my platform involves creating a Director of Legislative Affairs whose main position and main responsibility would be working with the legislature and developing a legislative agenda for the university that we could submit to Carson City and actually try to carry out for the year.
Mr. Camp?
Yeah, building up a relationship with anyone doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And that's where something I'll actually be very committed is visiting with the legislatures. I will make a point to go over to Carson City and visit with them and try to visit with also not only themselves, but also be familiar with their staff and also have the staffs of ASUN and also the students to make sure that they feel welcome to go and contact their legislatures. We're definitely going to have our Public Affairs Committee be involved in part of this process in our entire Senate. In addition to this, we are not alone when it works with the legislature. We need to work with the community that we reside in, and that's Reno, and back home, for some of you back in Las Vegas, or Elko, or Fallon, or Minden, and Gardnerville, because you're someone's kid, and your parents work somewhere, and those businesses depend on the education that's coming out of our great university. And if we are getting cut, we need to utilize every aspect that we can, and that means going back to mom and dad. That means going to the businesses that our family works at and asking them to get involved, because what we're doing today, what is happening today, is going to affect our future tomorrow. So it's going to be a personal commitment, but it's also getting the community involved and making sure that we're working with the community, that we present a united force to the legislature so they understand that the impacts that happen affect everyone.
Mr. Jose, your 30-second response.
All right. In terms of community, I don't think this is just a one-man show. The president shouldn't be the only one taking this on. This is about our education, and we all should fight for it. And so as president, I would really like to encourage students and really encourage them to just become active, contact the legislators, know what's going on. So pretty much, I want to empower everybody to do something about this, because we all need to do this together. It's not just a one-man show.
Mr. Styler?
Yeah, again, just to emphasize on the long-term goals and the long-term approach we need to take to this process, I feel, again, that through the different commitments made by the ASUN president and the creation of a possible Director of Legislative Affairs, we could have a much more structured and organized approach to working with the legislature, as well as using different students, giving students the opportunity to actually community organize, get students on campus registered to vote in the state of Nevada, so that we can actually go down to the legislature and say, we have a voice.
Mr. Kemp?
Yes, Casey and Charlie both bring up good valid points, which I would of course come back onto them and incorporate that. Also, furthermore, we need to work with our alumni association, ensure that we're tapping every single resource. We got some great resources not only here locally, but we also have some in Washington, D.C. and spread all over the nation. So also making sure that we're tapping into every single resources that we have on campus for that.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Styler, my question for you is this. Do you the Constitution, in section 3 of our ASUN Constitution, lists explicitly and kind of explicitly the duties of the president. What do you think the duties of the president is in this current economic time, or what is your personal philosophy of the duties of the president?
Within the ASUN Constitution, there are certain responsibilities outlined for the president. Making different appointments, serving on different committees, putting forward a budget. Even the State of the Association address is listed in the Constitution. But beyond those specific responsibilities, I feel that the ASUN president's role again, beyond the Constitution, is to act as the voice of the students. And in serving in that role, the ASUN president needs to make sure that they're using every avenue possible to get more student input and to hear what the students have to say, in order for the president to properly serve on university committees and statewide committees such as the Tuition and Fees Committee. Without the ASUN president having an actual connection to the students on this campus and having an understanding of what they want and need, they cannot properly serve in that role. So beyond the basic requirements of when different appointments, et cetera, are due, the president needs to take that role as being the voice of the students very, very seriously, and that can only be done through getting student input, which would be one of the main focuses of my presidency.
Mr. Camp, your question. Your response.
I actually have it right here in front of me. It's hard to keep everything memorized these days, but there's a lot of communication that will be taking place that you will have to visit, and as the president, myself, will have to visit. I'll have to be there at the Nevada System of Higher Education. I'll have to be working closely with Milton Glick, Mark Johnson, and also Shannon Ellis of Student Services. There's also, I want to dive into an issue here, is to appoint and remove all inferior offices of the executive branch unless otherwise specified by law. I'll be working very closely with the Senate. I have no history that might get in the way with working the Senate. There will be a clean slate, so I'll have to establish relationships with them. Secondly, I found it a little disturbing that we didn't have the Attorney General until February 2nd of this year. There's a reason why that was written into our Constitution to have an Attorney General. And that's one of the key positions that I will be looking at to ensure that it gets filled, because we need every single branch. We need the executive, we need the legislative, and we also need the judicial.
And finally, Mr. Rosette.
I really see the president as a facilitator. The president should be the one who makes sure that everyone is on top of things, everyone is making sure that we are working for the students. And this isn't just with the executive branch. The president needs to be reaching out to the different branches to really ensure that we are working together as an organization to effectively serve the students. And we won't know what we can improve on unless we ask the students. So that is the main point, is really reaching out to students and asking what they want. And I want to take this conversation into the classroom, wherever we can, like even down South Campus where people are just walking between classes. We ask so many times, hey, will you guys come to this open forum, come to this thing that we're having, and we don't really see anybody come. So I think we need to actively be searching out there for student input. And as president, that's what I do plan to do, as well as facilitating between the different departments.
Mr. Steiber, your 30-second response.
Mr. Camp actually brought up a good point in terms of the president's ability to appoint many different positions within ASUN. Part of that is going to be holding those people accountable. And I pledge as the ASUN president, if elected, to actually is the most extensive search possible to find qualified and dedicated individuals for each of the positions that I appoint. And then not only to make sure that dedicated individuals are appointed, but that they're held accountable throughout the time.
And Mr. Rosette, your 30-second response. Mr. Camp, your response to that.
Yeah, and focusing on communication, ultimately communicating with all the branches, but also part of my platform is to ensure that we have monthly town hall meetings where every single student can come and visit with us, with myself and whatever university leader we have there candidly, so we can address the issues that are going on. And also being the face for ASUN within all aspects.
And Charlie, your 30-second response.
All right. Another thing that's on my platform is really creating an effective evaluation plan for officers, and this is something that I started with my commission. I had them fill out officer evaluations for me, and I think if we started this next year, we can really know what we can improve on, not when we leave our terms, but midway through, so that way we can be actively working for what students want. Because you guys pay us money, we should be doing the best job that we can.
That's 30 seconds. Mr. Camp, this question's for you. What's your stance on tuition and fees? How will you represent that belief in the Board of Regents?
Ooh, that's a difficult question right now. That's a very difficult question. We are definitely facing at this moment tuition increases and the possibility of fees that, well, simply it's certainly unknown. Right now we actually have to decide the legislature has to decide what will happen to the Nevada system of higher education. And then working with the Board of Regents to come up with a plan that's within reason and that the student body can